afternoon, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy December 1st. Happy, happy. Hope everybody's happy, doing what they're doing. Welcome to a new month. Welcome to a new day that we've never seen before. This is the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. And today, again, I'm your host, Glenn Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dial Out of a Dime. And today we're just going to chop it up. We're going to talk about a few different things. And we're going to have some Q&A for those of you that join us. Go ahead and tap in, ask your questions, and we're going to get this thing kicked off. I'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. Again, thank you all for joining me today. This is actually going to be a show where I just share some information with you, share some of my thoughts about some of the things that are going on in the business of real estate investing. Of course, you will always hear me call it the business of real estate investing, because oftentimes I think people misunderstand what actually goes on in what we do. I believe that it's been made, and this is my opinion, and the views of opinion that are expressed on the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, when I say them, are mine. The ones where the guests say them, they're theirs. But I want to say this. I believe in some cases the seriousness of what we do in real estate investing is, and sometimes has been made a mockery of. Why do I say that? Because so many people look at what we do as something that you can jump into with no cash, no credit. It's a game. Everybody's showing checks. Everybody's flashing this and everybody's flashing that. So there's a few different things that I see that are going on, that I have seen that go on in the business of real estate investing, that kind of takes away the true tangible ability of it being able to take you from the where you are now to a whole nother level in life. And I think that people look at this as just something that they can get in, make a quick dollar, and get on to the next thing, if there is a next thing. But I personally, in my, in the experience that I have, I don't take a whole lot of things serious, too serious, I should say. But I take this serious, and not too serious. I mean, I'm not over the top serious about it, but I am serious about what I feel is necessary to make this business a success. I've had my shares of ups and downs and ins and outs, and I got the bumps and bruises and the scars and the t-shirts to show for it. So I take it very serious. I take it serious to the degree that I personally think people should respect what we do. And what I mean by that is not just looking at it as something that is a fly-by-night opportunity. There's a lot of new things that are out where you can make a ton of money, which is all well and good. But those things have not been around since real estate investing. Real estate investing is on a solid, tried and true foundation, right? Not taking anything away from crypto or anything else, but those things are new. Those things are new. Those things are things that people haven't. Well, I won't say new, but those are things that many people have not been familiar with for a long time. But everybody's familiar with real estate, and to some people, they look at real estate as something they can just get in and make a quick buck and going about the business. But I look at it as something that takes some work. It takes some understanding. It takes some education. It takes some real knowledge, and it should be taken a little bit more seriously. Now, again, these are my opinions. This is how I feel about it. Is it something that you can come in? Let me clear this up. This is the one thing I want to make sure I clear up. That yes, you can make money in real estate with no cash and no credit. I absolutely 110% agree with that. However, what is required for you to be able to accomplish that? One, there has to be some understanding of how the entire process works, how the process of finding a deal, getting it done, how to get it done, how to communicate with the seller or potential seller, how to communicate with the people that are going to be throughout the transaction, the attorney, the title company. If there's a difference in the two, there might be a title company, there might be a closing attorney, your insurance carrier. If you have to carry insurance, depending on where you are and what you're doing, right? If you're wholesaling, then you may not have to get that involved with the insurance. However, there are quite a few things that need to be known about the process of getting a deal closed. They tell you no money and no credit, but what they don't always tell you is that you got to know what you're doing. How do you get to know what you're doing beyond the no money and no credit, right? Okay, you don't have money, you don't have credit, but what do you have? Do you have drive? Do you have ambition? Do you have stick-to-itiveness? Do you have character? Do you have integrity? Do you have empathy for the people that you're going to be dealing with? Like, these are all of the things that are necessary to get to be able to do a deal with no cash and no credit, right? Do you have all of these things? Are all of these things in you? Are all of these things that you should be aware of and things that you know that you have to use in order to accomplish the no money and no credit situation of getting a deal done? Not everyone is there. Not everyone is there. Not everyone has the ability to get in the dirt and get it done, especially when it comes to making calls, getting hung up on, getting cussed out, getting talked about. I mean, all the things that come with getting a deal done. In some cases, do you have it in you to be able to withstand those types of things that come up? Do you have it in you? Do you have the wherewithal to encourage yourself, right? Because sometimes, we need to encourage ourselves. I've been doing this for some time. I need to encourage myself on a regular basis to keep going, And when there's a major issue that comes up, I have to remind myself it's not as bad as it seems. Sometimes it's bad, but it's not always as bad as it seems, because there is a solution to every situation, right? So in that, you have to be the person that can get to the point of being able to make all of these things happen. And that is the major thing that I find that's unfortunate for a lot of the people that are sold the idea that they can get into the business with no money and no credit, because they're not realizing that there's a whole lot of other things that they should have within them that come along with being able to accomplish that, right? You can read a million videos on how to close a deal, right? But does that show you how to actually have a conversation and empathize or sympathize with the person that you're talking to if they're in a situation that you're supposed to be helping them out of, right? The major thing I think that gets lost is we are solutions providers. We are here to help. We should lead with that as opposed to how much the check is going to be when the deal closes. And a lot of times that's the mindset that a lot of people get into this business looking at is, how much am I going to make off this deal? Or how much am I going to make off this person's pain? Not realizing that you have to be the one that deals with this situation in some cases from beginning to end. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to help these people? How are you going to help them in their situation? You come across a probate lead where a person who's lost a family member, and they have this deal, they have this property that they don't know what to do with, right? You first have to educate them through the process. If you're going to do the deal right, you have to educate them through the process. And first, in order to educate them, you have to be educated. You have to understand how that situation happens, how you're able to get them over the hurdle of having a property that they may not want. It'd be better for them to just liquidate it. And then the family member that passed may have bills that they have to clear. There might be so many different things that they have to deal with. And somebody has to educate them. Somebody has to tell them that there's going to be some things that you're going to go through, but I'm going to help you through that process. Now, there's another situation where a person's in a free foreclosure. They're about to lose their home. They don't know what to do. The only thing that they know is they have to pay, right? Now, if they don't have the money to pay, what do they do next? Right? How are you there to help them? How are you going to help them resolve the situation that they're in? How are you going to help them catch up those payments if that's what you're planning to do? Or do you have a plan to do that? Right? What are your intentions when you speak to these people? What are your intentions? Your intention is only to get a check, right? Some people can see the genuineness or lack thereof in people that call them. That's why some people can make an offer on a property and buy it for a lower price than a person who makes a higher offer because of how well they build rapport, how they communicate with the people that they deal with. I want to give one such example of a gentleman that I've been working with for some time. And we've actually been having a conversation over the last few months. He was in a situation, actually was in a situation because we're now helping him resolve it. He was in a situation where he was potentially, he's being fined by the city. He has so much equipment on his land that the city was fining him because they said he had to move the equipment. However, unfortunately, he didn't have the money to move the equipment, right? So he needed some help. What I did was I came in and offered him some help to help him move the equipment to his farm, which is 100 miles away from where he currently lives, and came in to help him out with that situation. Made him an offer on his property. He stuck to the price that he wanted. Really didn't understand the value of what he has, but he stuck to the price, which I, completely respected. Now, the price might be a bit more than what I would typically pay for this type of project. However, we worked it out where we can buy it on terms over time. And it worked out for both of us, right? So now he'll get the money that he needs to move his equipment, catch up on past bills that he had, resolve a lot of the situations that he was dealing with, and be able to move and still get cash flow over time, as well as, being eventually cashed out. I want to share a real quick clip of our conversation and his experience of working with me, and, just how this situation all came together. He's actually in Detroit, Michigan, Taylor, Michigan, and I travel back and forth quite a few times just to sit down and have a conversation with him. I wanted to let him share with you in his own words how his experience was working with me. How you doing, folks? This is Glen Glasper, and I'm here with my buddy, Mr. Alan Kerr. Mr. Alan Kerr, we met, I want to say, was it April this year?
Something right in that area.
Yeah. April this year. I called him up to ask him about his property. He refused to budge on the price. So
that and dinner, there's no talking
about. Right. But we actually negotiated a great deal for both of us. So we negotiated a great deal where it works out for both of us. And so now we're here. We're actually here in the property now. We're about maybe 2 or 3 more steps before getting everything complete.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Yeah, yeah. So tell the folks about your experience and us working together.
I've met this gentleman a short while ago, and he's probably one of the best people that I've come in contact with in terms of how he carries himself, how he talks, how he treats you. He's just one hell of a nice guy. Thank you. I've had a very good experience with him up till now, and I hope it doesn't change. We got a little ways to go, and I'm working on it, and he's working on it. So I have a timeline, and I hope I can cut some time off of it, but I don't promise nothing until I got that check in my hand.
Absolutely.
But as far as my experience with him, it's been good, very good. He's actually a very comfortable person to deal with. So that's what I mean by being in a situation where you are genuinely working to help someone. Now, this gentleman, 80 years old, he's been in this property for 40 plus years, and he had some sentimental value, so he wanted a specific number, which I guess, like I said, we agreed upon, and it worked out. It worked out for both of us. I mean, we're still working together to get this transaction closed.
There's a few more steps. He had another family member whose name was on a part of the land, who he had to have the attorney get that signed off on. But the whole thing, coming together, it took not just the idea of getting a deal done and making some money and you know getting on with getting over on somebody. It took true, genuine empathy and understanding of what it takes to help someone in a situation that they're currently in that they don't know how to get out of, right? It requires you having the empathy again, the knowledge, the experience also, right? And many times these are things that people that get started in this business don't start out with. They don't start out with these skills or these personality traits in some cases, unfortunately. They don't start out with these things. So these things have to be taught in some cases. And you have to be open to someone sharing these experience and this knowledge with you. Again, like how handling this situation. I don't know that there has or have seen a YouTube video on how to handle being a nice person to someone, right? Working with this gentleman, we've just had conversations over the phone. I call him up and see how he's doing, call him up and see how his health is. It's building genuine rapport and staying in contact and staying connected. There was a time I just happened to be in town to give him a call, to let him know we're still working with him and getting the process done. Once we even close on this project, he's going to have several more months to be able to get all of his equipment moved, right? So it's a situation where he was dealing with something again, and we were able to come in and help him out, right? And that comes from, and again, my opinion, experience. And that's something that I don't believe a lot of people understand. When they first hear that you can get into the business with no money down and no credit, right? I've heard this saying before. Again, I'm not saying that that's not true, but I will say that it's not the whole truth, right? I want to make sure I'm clear on that. It's not that it's not true, but it's not the whole truth. Because the first 16 years of my career in real estate investing, I did deals with no money and no credit, right? In many cases, I had money. I don't know about the credit. I didn't know what my credit was. I didn't bother checking it. But I had the money, but I didn't bother using my money because I knew how to use what's called OPM, other people's money, right? So I was able to do several deals that way for the first 16 years of my career. And it wasn't because, and I want to make sure I clear this up, it wasn't because I was, extremely knowledgeable about how to do the process. It was because I had the experience of going through the process. Did I make some mistakes? Absolutely. Did I get some things wrong? Absolutely. There were several situations that I did make mistakes and I did get things wrong. But those things were the things that taught me the lessons that helped me get it right going forward. Now, if I had it to do all over again, I would have not attempted to do it on my own, right? I thought I knew enough to do a lot of the things that I was doing on my own. Did I make it through some of them? Yes, I did. I earned very well through some of those situations. But the ones that I wasn't experienced enough and wasn't knowledgeable enough, I made mistakes. I lost money. I lost opportunities, right? Because I, at the time, didn't use the knowledge that I had learned about getting properly educated and having a mentor. I was being educated, but it was costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars in education, right? I even had a situation where I had a gentleman who offered to mentor me. He offered to mentor me, but here's how he presented his potential mentorship to me. At the time, he presented it to me this way. He said, "Meet me for lunch and bring a check for $5,000, and I'll teach you how to do real estate." Well, at the time, I'd already been doing real estate, so I thought $5,000 was extremely high. Not to mention, I had several $100,000 in the bank at the time, but I thought $5,000 was extremely high. And I said to myself, do I really want to pay this guy $5,000 over lunch to think that he's going to teach me what I need to know about real estate investing? So I didn't do it. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have paid him the $5,000 and potentially whatever else he'd have asked, because I realize now the cost of ignorance, the cost of ignorance is much more expensive than the cost of education, right? Someone has said before, if you think the cost of education is high, imagine when you get the bill for ignorance or not knowing, right? Simply what ignorance is. So I didn't know what I didn't know, and I paid heavily on the back end for not knowing what I didn't know. But had I had someone who had went through if I had hired someone who had went through the experience, had the knowledge, and gone through the bumps and bruises that I didn't know about, I would have made it out much better than I did, right? Still did okay, but during the real estate crash, well, you're familiar with, many of you are familiar with the real estate crash of 2008. I had lots of money at the time. However, the problem was I wasn't, and I'll say it now, I wasn't properly educated on what to do to maintain through the crash. So February 2008, I sold my last property. Over a couple of years, I just started selling off the properties that I owned. It was about 17 or 18 properties. I just started selling them. Now, I don't take credit for that being some wisdom or some type of knowledge. I don't take credit for that. It was just the fact that I wanted to make a lot of money, or make a lot more money, right? So I started selling these properties, which started building my bank account, right? And building my bank account is, when I made it, when the crash happened in 2008, is what helped me make it through a couple of years without having to do anything. However, when the crash happened, I made it out right under the radar, I guess, under the, by the skin of my teeth. I sold my last property February 2008, and I made quite a bit of money on that deal. Now, at that time, I had already had money in the bank, so the deal that I sold added to that. Over the time of February 2008 to, I'll say, December of 2009, I went from multiple six figures in the bank to four figures. I was down to $5,000. And if I look back now, and now I'm thinking about it, that $5,000, that last $5,000, I probably should have taken that and then went to the gentleman who said to pay him $5,000. I probably should have taken that last $5,000 and invested in the education that I had missed out on. Right? Because had I did, I would have fared very well through the rest of the time. So, being broke, it took me out of the game for a little bit. Right? But had I invested that $5,000 a long time, prior to that situation, I would have had a mentor to help me understand what I needed to do with the money that I had in the bank from 2008 to the end of 2009 and beyond, I should say, to help me understand what I needed to do to continue to strive, not just survive. Because I just survived from that time the time of the beginning of the crash and the end of 2009. I just barely survived. But had I invested in my education, I would have did extremely well, much, much more than I was doing at the time. Right. So I want to take you back. I want to share a story of my beginning experience in doing deals. I want to share, actually, I was in Detroit recently, and I came across my first real estate deal. And I shared this story that I want to share with you real quick. Hang tight. All right, we are in Detroit, west side of Detroit, in a little area known as Brightmoor. And this house here is the first investment property I bought back in 1998. I bought it, I think it was $28,000, 5-bedroom house. And what I did was I rented out 4 of the bedrooms and I lived in one. So rented out 4 of the bedrooms. So this is what it is commonly now known as house hacking. And at the time,
I just rented out 4 of the bedrooms to friends who needed a place to stay. When I bought this house, I was homeless. I didn't have a place to stay. And when I closed on it, I actually had to wait 2 months to move in because there was a tenant still living in there. But when I closed on the house, I only had to come to the table with $84 to close on this house. I bought this house with no cash and no credit. And the money that I borrowed, the money that I had to close, I borrowed that. And I had an investor actually sign to close the deal with me. So we closed on this house in 1998, lived in it for about 2 years, 2.5 years, and when I moved to Atlanta. But this was my very first investment property that I closed on in 1998. And from then on, I said to myself, if this is something that I can do on accident, what I thought was on accident, imagine what I could do on purpose. When I first bought this house, 2 years prior, I was actually studying from a real estate course for about 2 years. Studied for that course for 2 years when I first got into real estate. So I actually started technically in real estate back in 1996, started learning to invest. But I didn't learn enough. I didn't get what I say competent enough to build the confidence to be able to close on this property until 1998. Got with a real estate agent, got with a real estate attorney, and actually they helped me put this deal together. We actually got it closed and bought it, rented those bedrooms out for about 6 months to almost a year. Rented those bedrooms out. They moved out, and I moved out with a friend, and then I rented it to some family members for a couple more years, for another year or so. But that was really the situation where I actually built up the confidence to actually do the process. I actually went through the process. This is what the beginning looked like for me. So most people tell you you can get into real estate with no cash and no credit. That is true. However, what it does take the skills and the knowledge to be able to do so. And it took me 2 years to build up the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence to do so. I didn't have a mentor. Had I had a mentor, I probably would have got this done a lot sooner than that, right? But I took a chance and did it on my own back in a time where it wasn't that challenging, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I met with a real estate attorney who actually walked me through the process of actually getting this deal closed. So that's what I did to get started on my very first project back in 1998. And if I can do it, almost anybody can do it. Not everybody will do it, but many people can, but not everybody will choose to.
All right, now I tell that story. I'm reminded of the time when I was going through the process. That's some people miss out and miss the idea of the process. People want to get into the business and they want to get that check in that first 2 weeks to 30 days because they've been sold on the idea that it can happen. And again, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it comes with strings. There is some strings attached to being able to get a deal closed that quickly. There is a process. You're right. You've heard the phrase, trust the process. In that situation, that story I just shared with you, that process of 2 years was me building up the confidence to even go into a real estate attorney's office to have a conversation about investing in real estate, right? I studied and I studied and I studied and I studied. I studied this course until I knew it almost backwards and forth, right? And I was confident enough to go in there and have this conversation. Again, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I shared my inexperience, I'll say, with the real estate attorney because I thought, I knew what I thought I knew something. And he shared with me so many things that was missing from the process, right? So that was missing from what I thought would have been the process of getting a deal closed. There were so many things that was missing from the course that I had purchased, right? It was probably in there in hindsight, but I didn't understand how all of those things that might have been in there were applicable to actually getting a real deal done. Because in some cases, the information might not have been up to date, or it might have been a little bit outdated, right? And that's the thing that I want to make sure I'm clear with a lot of people on. When you're buying a course, be sure that it's applicable to the day's time. I will say the fundamentals of real estate investing hardly ever change. There's always going to be a contract that has to be, a seller. There's going to be a buyer. There's going to be a contract. The fundamentals and having a conversation and how putting that all together, those things will not change, right? But there were certain things that I did not understand about the process of getting a deal closed. So in my whole deal, in this first deal situation, I looked and looked and looked, and I borrowed money to get this deal closed on that first deal. And I think I came up with about $2,000 after begging and borrowing, scraping, and whatever I had to do to get this $2,000. When we went to the closing, the attorney told me he was only going to charge me $200 to help me get through this closing, because he understood that I didn't know, again, what I didn't know. And when he started going through the HUD statement and just, I thought I needed $2,000 for this closing. He started going through the HUD statement and checking off all the things that I didn't have to pay, or the things that I shouldn't be responsible for. After all was said and done, what ended up happening is I only had to give them $84 at the closing, right? Some money I had gotten back, or I was going to be getting, because there was a tenant in the property for the next couple of months, and I will be getting rent on this property where the tenant was already staying. Now, keep in mind, I want you to understand that at the point of this whole beginning and during this whole process, I was homeless. I had no place to stay. I had a car, but I had no place to stay. Some nights I slept in the car. Some nights I slept at a friend's house. Some nights I slept wherever. So during this whole process, I had no place to stay. Now, some nights I sat in the car with the car light on, reading this book, right? Learning how to do real estate, right? I never shared that part about it, but some nights, I went through, what some would consider hell to learn how to do this business, right? And then after building up the confidence, going into that attorney's office, having the conversation, him kind of taking me by the hand and leading me through the process, then actually closing on the house, getting this money back, again, no money, no credit. I didn't even know what my credit was at the time. I didn't know what the importance of credit. I figured it out because someone else with credit had to close on the deal with me. And finally closing on that deal. And at the same time, I was in the process of moving in. 4 of my friends were homeless. Well, they weren't homeless, but they wanted to move out of their current situation, right? And they asked if they can rent a room, or if they can move in with me, of course. And I said, yeah, you can move in, but I'm going to rent you a room. So 4 friends in this 5-bedroom house paid $250 a month, which that was $1,000 of income. Now, that might not mean a whole lot to some people, but for somebody who went from being homeless, penniless, now getting $1,000 a month of income on a property that I had no skin in the game to close, that was a lot of money for me, right? Not only do I now have a place to stay, but I am the owner of this place to stay. And I am the landlord of the tenants that are currently renting the 4 bedrooms, right? A drastic change in situation for me, right? These people that moved in with me, they put furniture in the house. Of course, I had to get my own bed. They put living room furniture. They had their own bedroom furniture. They put the kitchen furniture. They paid the lights, the gas, the water bill. At that time, AOL had just came out. They paid the AOL bill. So all of these things, they paid all of those costs. And for me, all I did was move in with them, and they covered the cost of the things that I took. I was, I guess the amenities that I had the chance to take advantage of, right? And I didn't have to pay for any of those things. So that process Then what happened from that point is I moved out. They moved out. I moved out. Moved in with a friend. Another family member of mine wanted to rent the house. Let them rent the house. Now keep in mind, my mortgage was only $289. So I was getting $700 and some dollars of cash flow. Right now, they moved out. A friend of mine moved in. A family member moved into the house and wanted to rent the house. They were only renting a room, but I said you can rent the whole house, and I moved out. I think they were paying $700 or $800 a month for that house. And I decided I wanted to move back in, but I said, you know what? Instead of moving back in, I'm going to move to Atlanta. So I decided I would move to Atlanta. And the cousin moved out and had another tenant move in. And the cousin was now managing the property for me, collecting the rent for me. Right. So all of this was a process. Now, all of this, I had no knowledge and no experience. It just happened. Right. I was fortunate in this situation. Moved to Atlanta, then started my investing career in Atlanta. Right. First deal I closed in Atlanta, I made the salary of the job that I had previously got laid off from. All of this is a process. And from then on, I did several deals with no money and no credit. Now, was it easy? Of course not. And somebody would ask the question, why are you so adamant about talking about the no money, no money down, no credit? Because the book that I bought was no money down, no credit. Some of you might be familiar with it, Carlton Sheets. No money. The name of the course was No Money Down. And I learned that process and I implemented it, and I did it several times. But of course, what I didn't know at the time is a process that it was going to take, the time that it was going to take, the knowledge it was going to take, the bumps and bruises I would eventually incur as a result of me attempting to just do this all just by reading a couple of books. And again, I'm not saying that it's not possible. It is very possible to be successful. It's very possible to make good money getting started with no money and no credit. But then the answer that I would ask from there is, then what? Right? Then what? You got in with no money, no credit. You closed a couple deals. You made some money. Then what? What's the plan from there? The plan that I eventually understood is that you got to get your credit right. Right? You got to get your money right. You got to keep money to continue to invest. These are the lessons that I learned along the way. Eventually getting my credit right. Now I can be considered what's a real life real estate investor. Hence the name, real life real estate investor. And that was, in that experience, it taught me that getting my credit is now I can purchase properties that I can hold on to, that I can pay less interest on. Right now, the no credit situation is, I could get funding with no credit, but those would be high interest loans. If my credit is good, I can get 30-year fixed low interest loans. Right. So now my cash flow is much higher because my payment is lower. Somebody's going to get this in the car on the way home. Because my credit is better. I get low interest loans. I get 30-year fixed interest. So if interest rates rise or low, whatever the case may be, I'm not going to be affected. Now, in a situation where I place a tenant in there and I set an amount of rent, I can look at a fixed amount that I will earn on a monthly basis. Right? Now, if I were not doing that with my own credit, or I didn't get into it with my own cash, I would have to probably look at how much less I would make. Right? Now, of course, if there's a profit, some people say any profit is a good profit. Right? But how long is your profit going to pay off? Right? Of course, you can be getting a profit, but how long are you going to get that initial investment back? I'm sure you're familiar. Some of you are familiar with the rule of 72. How long will it take you to get your initial investment back? What's going to be your cap rate? Or what I'd like to say, many people may not get this, but I ask the question is, what's going to be your ROI? Now, who's Roy? What's going to be your ROI, your return on investment? These are the things that you have to understand when getting into the business of real estate investing. These are the things that are very important that you need to be understanding when getting into this business. Understanding that these are things that are going to eventually come up if you're planning on being a real life real estate investor. Right? Now, somebody would ask the question, what is a real life real estate investor? Like, what do you do to become a real life real estate investor? And I want to share something else with you. What I do is I show people how to become what I consider to be real life real estate investors. I help people get started investing in real estate to have a long-term real estate investing career, not just I want to make a few $1,000s here and there type of real estate investing career. Even if you start from the beginning, where I consider wholesaling is a starting point, and I say wholesaling, the one is a good starting point for individuals that are looking to become real estate investors, real life real estate investors, because it teaches you everything. You can learn everything from investing in real estate. You can learn how to run the numbers. You can learn how to analyze properties, learn how to analyze the repairs, learn what the repair costs are going to be. You can learn how to locate properties. You can learn how to have a conversation. You can learn how to present properties to buyers. You can learn all of these different things in wholesaling, which is a good foundation to go to the next level, right? Some people look at wholesaling as the lowest part of the totem pole. Actually, being a bird dog, I guess, would be the lowest part of the totem pole. But even in that, you can learn. You can learn about locating distressed properties. You can learn about finding the best properties, right? People do driving for dollars and things like that. So there's several different things. So there's levels to this business. There's levels to anything, but there's levels to this business specifically because the more you learn, the more consistent your earning can be. Now, some people say the more you learn, the more you earn. Yes, I believe that as well. But you want your earning to be consistent. Now, you can learn a lot about wholesaling in the beginning, but your learning may not be as consistent because you may not be consistently doing the things that you're supposed to do. And you want your earning to be consistent. Now, even when you get to not every, because I believe that wholesaling is a hustling business, a lot of hustle and bustle. I'll say it's very transactional, right? You're only good as the last deal you close, right? Because depending on where you are in your situation, that deal might cover the bills. That deal might cover some other things that you might need to want to be spending money on, but you need to work on actually putting yourself in position to get consistent cash flow, right? How do you get consistent cash flow? You put yourself in a position of ownership as opposed to flipping and selling everything, right? Even if you're doing fix and flips, that's transactional. And while you can make a ton of money doing that, you want to position yourself where even if you don't work, you're still earning income. And how you do that is you get in position to do buy and holds, and actually I'm going to be having a course coming up here pretty soon teaching people how to be the bank, where you buy a property, fix it up, refinance it, then you actually sell it on seller financing, where you are the bank. You're not just flipping it where you no longer having control. You're actually holding on to it, creating a note where you sell it to a person who may not necessarily qualify, and they have the down payment and they have the means to be able to, basically qualifying them to get into the property. Credit might not be the best. That's actually going to be a part of our program as well, as helping them get their credit in order. this is for the buying side. Now we're going to help position people to be the bank on the seller side, where you're actually creating a note that you could potentially sell at a later time or hold on to until the person gets the proper financing to cash you out, right? Where this is a strategy that my team and I are actually putting together that we're going to be teaching. I mean, it's not a brand new thing. It's just something that we're going to be teaching people how to do, whereas some people may not be even familiar with the process, right? We're going to teach you how to be the bank and teach you how to create notes that you can sell at a discount later on and still earn a significant income, where you're buying the properties, getting the cash out tax-free, and potentially selling the note down the line, or helping the person get the proper qualifications so that they can buy at a higher price later on. Right. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. And that's something that we're going to be sharing with you here pretty soon. In the meantime, I think I have some people here with me. I want to open up for any questions anybody may have, where I'm going to be sharing the ad video here in just a minute, where we'll be talking about how to help you get started in real estate investing. I see my man Derek. What's up, Derek? Thanks for hanging out with me. And my sister Cassie. What's going on, Cassie? Cassie, we're going to get together potentially later today or tomorrow on what we were discussing. Yes, and thanks, Derek, for reminding me of that. We do have a wholesaling course, and I don't know, Derek, are you still? What price are you? We giving it away at the Black Friday price? We'll do that for the people that are watching today, the people that are watching the show today. Let's go ahead and have. Let me see. I think we can do that. Let's do that. But in the meantime, let me go and do this real quick. I'm going to share with you all this information.
Hey, what's happening, folks? Many experts will tell you that you can get into the business of real estate investing with no money and no credit. And the question I ask is, if you bought into that, how's that working out for you? Right? My name is Glen Glasper, and I've been in this business for 23 years. And what I find is most of the people that get into this business with that type of mentality, only 0.001% of them have any level of success, or let alone close a deal. Most of the people that become successful understand the importance of leveraging credit and leveraging money, as well as leveraging time, and not just doing one deal. If that's you, I created a video on how you can become successful in real estate investing. Now, this is not for the people who don't want to invest any money or don't want to invest any credit. This is not for the easy crowd. This is for the people who are open to investing and open to leveraging their resources. If that's you, go ahead and click on the link below, and I'll certainly see you on the other side. Go ahead and click on the link below, and I'll see you on the other side. Go ahead and click on the link. Did you hear me? I said click on the link. See you on the other side.
All right, yeah, that's the virtual wholesaling course that we're actually going to be teaching. I think that's the one that Derek's mentioning, but we're going to get the links put in the chat. And that will be just about our time. And I think we got a couple more things we're going to be sharing here. Just a second. Getting instructions from my team, my show producers on the things that I'm supposed to be sharing. Let's see. All right, here we go. I think we are getting the information that they're telling me to put on. For those of you that are still with us, if you have any questions, please go ahead and post your questions. I'll be glad to answer any questions about what we got going on. Oh, one more thing I didn't mention. I guess we'll shout out to Detroit. Detroit, we got a class that's going to be happening in your town in March. So keep a eye out for the information on that. We'll certainly be sharing that information here coming soon. And let's see if we have the links to what we are going to be sharing. All right. Any questions? Anybody got any questions for me while we're here? Let's see. All right. Let's see. We have the link. All right. We don't have it here yet, but I tell you what, we will get that link in the comments. And for those of you that are interested, and again, listen, I want you all to do what you need to do to be successful in this business. But keep in mind that to everything, there's a process. Everything, there's a process. For the people that might tell you that this is easy, I would say, yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple because the process is the process. The systems are the systems. But what makes it complicated is people. People complicate it because oftentimes people don't take the time to educate themselves. People don't take the time to find out the truth behind a lot of the things that are happening and the truth to the processes that should be happening. And in those cases, when one person doesn't understand the process or two people, they start doing it wrong and it starts catching on, and people think that that's the way it's done, and the house of cards begin to fall down. And that's where a lot of regulation is starting to happen in what we do because of the people who are not really familiar with how the whole process of things come together. And they're just doing what they think they should be doing. They're watching several YouTube videos, and they're doing a piece of the YouTube video here, a piece of the YouTube video here, and what they think the person said in the one YouTube video there, and not understanding how all of those things are intertwined or interlinked, or if they are even, and they're not following this. They don't have a step-by-step process of doing things. Now that's where a lot of confusion comes into play. You have several different people telling people to do it several different ways. And what that ultimately turns out to be is a rush to a correction, a rush to a real estate correction. What that means is that different things will begin to happen. Regulations will come into play. Lending will dry up. Interest rates will go back up. And all of these things will affect the way all of us do business. So get a mentor, get a coach, get someone to tell you how to do the things that you're supposed to be doing, even if you've been doing them for some time, just to get somebody to look over your shoulder to see if what you're doing is correct, right? 23 years in, I still follow up with people just to see if the things that I'm doing are the right things for the time that we're in. Because again, the fundamentals remain the same, but the game does change. So that's all I have. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching the show today. And again, we're going to make sure we drop those links for you in the comments. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Follow me on Instagram at Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime and at Real Life Real Estate Investing. And if there's anything I can help you with, I am certainly here to serve. This has been a Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, where we bring you real life real estate solutions. I look forward to seeing you all next time.